so many pieces all back together now. What's your vision?
In game, and we have Tato here spawning over to the west of the map in the blue. Down to the south in the red, it will be the one and only Doubt. Doubt playing as the Tartars, and Tato up to that northwest position playing as the Bulgarians. Talk to us a little bit about these civs. Very briefly, give us an indication of what they're about, starting here, of course, with the Bulgarians.
Okay, so Bulgarians are really an infantry civ and cavalry civ. It's really a team amongst all the new civilizations in the last count. They're really focused on cavalry. Heavy cavalry or light cavalry, doesn't matter, but it's cavalry all over the place. Because we actually noticed that people kind of started to miss that. In Rise of the Raja, it was all about elephants and infantry. And people were like, hey, we want more paladin civs. It's been a few expansions ago since we had a paladin civ. So yeah, a lot of paladin civs in this one. I think the biggest bonus for the Bulgarians, for example, is that they have free militia upgrades.
Okay.
So that's a big one. It's not something that I think we will really see in action in this game. Because, yeah, it's a very open map. It's not really made for infantry, but you've got that one. But then if we look at the other one, the Tatars, they are all about light cavalry. So
okay, so we've got heavy cavalry here for the Bulgarians, then sort of like the light cav from the Tatars.
Yeah, so if you have to say like 2 units per civilization, I would say the Tatars are cavalry archers and light cavalry, and then the Bulgarians are definitely heavy cavalry and infantry.
Okay, cool. So you think then in this game, perhaps the Tatars, a bit more rush civ, light cav. Yeah, it's so common on this map, Acropolis, to see lots of light cav raiding, especially since it's so open here, and players have to build their lumber camps down at the bottom of the Acropolis, and it leaves it quite exposed for them. Yeah,
the big advantage that Tatars definitely have is one of their bonuses is that they do 25% more damage from uphill when fighting from uphill.
Oh, okay.
We're on Acropolis. We fight always on a hill. So.
Pretty much. There's pretty big hills on this map. Yeah, that's actually pretty huge, right? I mean, it must be interesting for you as developers. I mean, when you come to approach making 4 new civs.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many civs in the game right now. Obviously, how do you even start to think about, okay, well, what kind of civ bonuses can we introduce? What can we, do that's different to the other 31 civs that are already in the game?
Yes, that is always a very big challenge. Like, what can we still do, right? But I think for this set of new civilizations, we definitely, got a nice package going.
Awesome. So I mean, at the moment, we're just seeing the standard stuff, players luring their boars at the moment here, and we can kind of zoom in quite far with this as well. And obviously, we have the new spectator features. So obviously, a lot of people are going to be amazed by the graphics, 4K graphics for those lucky enough to have a 4K monitor can really enjoy that. Obviously, here we're playing on the regular monitors, but you can really see those graphical improvements. I think that's really great for the game. It's obviously going to appeal a lot to a newer audience. Maybe it will a lot of people look at AoE 2 and it's an incredibly pretty game.
Yes.
But I'm extremely impressed with the fact that you've taken that to the next level, and I think it will have a wide appeal, obviously, to a newer audience. But I think a lot of people in our community, at least, are definitely going to be wondering about, well, basically, how the multiplayer is and how the spectator features are. I think that's something that we can look forward to as well.
Yeah, so the one nice thing about multiplayer, it's been completely rewritten from scratch. It has been completely pulled out. It was first was peer-to-peer, and now it's server-based multiplayer. So that's a big thing there that we going on there.
Yeah, we do have a little bit of stuttering right now, and that's definitely on our end. I think it's this PC. We tested this before without any issues, but it seems like something may have gone wrong in the meantime. Obviously, we're on a beta build right now, so there's lots of new stuff coming into the beta, or at least updates still to come, I believe, from you guys.
Yeah, indeed. There is a lot of stutter going on right here. There's not the case during the test, sadly. We do have it now, but indeed, as you said, it's also a beta. We're still actively working on it. We're still quite a few months from release. So yeah, it's still a lot of things going on. development-wise.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of the beta at home actually, and I've not had any issues myself. So yeah, it's always one of those things where you do it live.
Yes.
But yeah, so at the moment, then let's just see. We can see on the right side with this spectator UI, we can see that it's Doubt here in the red, researching up to the feudal age, while Tato is currently still in the Dark Age at the moment. And one of the big things here is you can queue the technologies. You wouldn't be able to do that before. You train your villagers, but then you couldn't just add loom. You had to wait for that to finish. All right, we could try and cast from the POVs. Apparently, it's only lagging on our screen here, but the players do not have any lag. So we could switch over to their POV. That would be great. We do have player POVs as well, so we have that backup. So there we go. We can see Tato now. We'll cast from Tato's point of view. Obviously, I will just drop out of the game. Actually, I'll leave it open just in case. But we can see on Tato's screen then how it's looking from his perspective. And I guess later on we can switch over to Doubt's perspective as well. We can see both, so that should be absolutely fine. The Tato there. Right, so I kind of lost our train of thought. We got a little bit distracted. But I was saying about being able to queue up technologies, quality of life features, which I think a lot of people who, perhaps they're familiar with newer RTS games, things like StarCraft 2 and others, those are things that they just come to expect. And I think I've seen a lot of people posting on Reddit and such, like, I'm from StarCraft 2, I'd like to get into AoE 2, how do I do this, how do I do that? What other quality life features might we see here in DE?
We have so many little things. Like the one thing that we really try to look out for is like, whatever we do, it still needs to be Age of Empires 2. In any, the way you look at it, it's still good old Age of Empires. But indeed, a lot of things are just expected nowadays. You can't have a game without command queues, for example.
Yes.
Any RTS game has it. You need to have the ability to zoom. I mean, we finally have it. It was not in the original game. So those things people just come to expect. I mean, not just from spectator mode, because in Capture Age we can zoom out. But in the game you can't. But now you can. And I think you mentioned queues earlier. I think queues is really the key word on what we added to the game. We added command queue. We added mixed queue. We added global queue. We added a farm queue. Fish
the
trap
auto
queue.
reseed as well.
Yes, auto reseed. Yes, also for fish traps. So which was surprisingly often requested, I have to say.
I think so. And for me, I mean, these are very much quality of life things. Obviously, we did an Age of Empires 3 tournament last month, and speaking to like the AoE 3 crowd, for example, who are used to having that command queue and shift clicking, that is sorely missing for them. And so I think that's something that like the competitive scene and people who are playing more competitively will really appreciate. But I think you've got that balance, right? You've got the balance. You've got to make it look great and work great for the single player crowd, which I think you've done amazingly. You can just zoom in, you can see all those amazing details, and you have the quality of life there. But then when it comes to the competitive side, updated spectator, and of course the things like shift clicking and all of that good stuff. A little bit of a scuffle here then. So Doubt, if I'm not mistaken, should be getting a massive advantage when he fights downhill here.
He does, but on the other hand, Tato has the advantage that he had the free upgrade for his man-at-arms. So he tried to use his advantage early, but on this map it's just really hard to abuse against Tatars. Yeah,
we see a tower coming up on the back of that wood line as well for Doubt. It's pretty nasty. Obviously, he's built 2 lumber lines there. That's where he's getting his entire wood economy from, and now it's denied by a single tower. Tato, such an aggressive player. You like to see him going forward quite often, and that tower there is just denying so much from Doubt. So yeah, in this situation, I mean, Tato did get cleaned up with those militia, and maybe now it's Doubt's turn to strike back with a counter raid, but we'll need to relocate those lumber camps, which is going to be a pain for Doubt. But at the moment, it could be quite even. Scores are very even, and we'll certainly see the game develop probably towards the castle age at this rate. I'll be curious to see what Tato goes into next. Let's talk a little bit about the unique units of these civs. Obviously, we may not see... Oh, we've got actually a pretty big raid on the wood line there on Tato. So we've got the counter-attack from Doubt coming in. And you can see there, you might pick up some villager kills because they're so far from safety.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a very open map. That is Acropolis. Bulgarians are really focused on like this really tight warfare. They actually have a few bonuses that lend itself to that. Speaking of the unique unit of the Bulgarians, it's the Conic, and the Conic is a unit with basically 2 lives.
Okay.
So it's a guy on a horse, a heavy cavalry guy. I think the stats are quite comparable to a Cavalier, something like that.
Okay.
But once you kill him, he's just actually thrown off the horse, and then he fights again as a infantry unit.
Like a dismounted knight, basically.
Exactly.
He gets up, polishes himself off, dusts himself off, and he's fine to go again. All right. And then what is he strong when he's off the horse as well, or is he much weaker at that point?
He is much weaker at that point, but it really messes with counters because, I mean, if you have a bunch of halberdiers going at the horses and then all of a sudden it's a champion-like unit against your halberdier, it turns it around.
That's really interesting, actually. I mean, that's something that's like entirely new and different, innovative. And then what about the Tartars? What are they looking at?
So that's a heavy cavalry unit, actually. So that's a Keshik, and that is a unit that it's basically a raiding unit. And we're like, how can we add a raiding mechanic to Age of Empires? And well, he is just a cavalry unit, and as he fights, he generates gold.
Okay,
so there you go.
So is that sort of like gold per kill, or is it sort of just
as long
damage?
as it attacks?
Okay,
it will generate gold.
That's really interesting. So essentially, you could be completely out of gold, get a huge raid off, and then bam, you've got a little bit of gold coming in.
You could, yes.
All right, interesting. I'm always curious to sort of hear about new ideas of generating gold, especially when the gold is all gone from the map, especially and even more so in a 1v1. But yeah, so that's really interesting as well. We might be able to look at the tech trees after the game to sort of break that down a little bit more. Obviously, we're watching the players' POVs right now. It seems like both players quite happy to continue with the scout production, so that's going to slow them down a little bit when it comes to going up to the Castle Age. You can see Tato barely has 100 food in the bank there. And while we look up toward that top area of the screen, you can see it's quite small because he's got his UI sort of very small right now. That's something you can do now in DE. You can change the UI scale, so you can make it bigger or smaller as you please. But you can see he's got some little indicators underneath the icons there to show just how many villagers he has on that resource. Exactly. So again, another quality of life thing, really.
Exactly. What we really want to give players is like an overview of the game at any time. That's really the big thing that we try to go for. So yeah, you have the indicators of how many villagers are on each resource, and then also right underneath this is like a global queue. So you know what exactly you're queuing.
What's being trained.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can also just click on those icons and it will jump directly to the building where it's being produced.
Okay. I mean, that's really useful, right? I mean, especially if it gets really messy and you accidentally queue up like 10 units. I don't know. I saw an instance yesterday actually where that could have been useful in the last game. Yeah. I remember seeing a bunch of Teutonic Knights queued at a castle like 10 miles back from the front line. Would have been great to just go straight there and cancel them. But yeah. And also at the bottom of the screen, sort of where the player cams are, you can see the control groups down there as well, I believe.
Indeed. So it's a lot easier to just see like what's where. And yeah, if the group is dead, the icon will disappear. So you will also immediately see if things go south.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. So at the moment, Doubts has a small score lead. He's continuing to be raided by Tato, but he's seeded out a lot of farms. He's got 19 villas on food here, so he's looking towards the Castle Age. Obviously, he's halfway there on food. He's definitely got the gold already. It's just a question of whether or not he can defend this raiding, and obviously with such an open map, that does become quite problematic at times.
Yeah. One funny thing as well is that I actually just noticed, and it's a question that I got a lot here at LAN. What is actually the speed of DE?
That's a great question.
Is it actually normal speed or is it the slightly higher speed? I just noticed that we're actually playing on the old speed here.
1.5, yeah.
The beta still has the older speed, but actually the release version will be played on 1.7 instead of 1.5.
Yeah, that was a big thing actually with HD. Obviously, it was originally a bug, essentially, that the CD version of the game in multiplayer played slightly faster. Yeah. So over the years, players just got used to that, and then when you go back to playing at the correct speed, it suddenly feels a little wrong. So it's really cool. You guys obviously going to speed the game up a little bit,
tiny bit, yes.
Just a tiny bit, just to sort of help with that competitive environment. I think, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it does look a tiny bit slow compared to all the games that we've had this weekend, but that's exactly the explanation.
And that's why. Yes. Awesome. So, Doubt, very, very close to Castle Age now. He's got a little bit too much gold, but he's definitely got the food that he needs, and he's just clicked up. Adding in archery ranges now as the Tartars. Do they have a good archery line?
They definitely have good cavalry archers, and especially with the hill bonus, that's ideal for cavalry archers, especially on this map. And it will be hard for Tatu to reply to that, actually. Their infantry for the Bulgarians has extra armor, but I actually have to check if it's pierce armor or normal armor.
I think we can check over on our second monitor
can
here,
check
actually.
here, okay.
We can do that. Don't worry, we've got you covered. Yeah, actually, we may as well actually run through the Civ bonuses. We didn't really do that at the start, but I think now's a good opportunity. So the Bulgarians, which is what Tato's playing here in the blue, their militia upgrades for free, of course. So as soon as you reach the feudal age, I imagine that man-at-arms upgrade kicks in immediately.
Yes.
And then the town centres cost half stone. So this could be quite a big boomy Civ. Oh, Tato's actually getting another good raid going here.
It is a bit of a boomy Civ because we kind of want to encourage that, but also one of the other bonuses of the Bulgarians is that they have the Cray Post, which is a different building. It's kind of like a mini castle.
Okay.
So you can train your unique unit there. You can't do upgrades there, but you can train your unique unit there, and it basically acts like a castle. It still has the attack, it has the good amount of hit points,
Okay.
but it's not the full castle. It goes down.
Right,
a bit faster
right,
still.
yeah. Okay, so it's sort of like this sort of fortified building.
Yeah.
Get your unique unit, but it's not super strong.
Exactly.
Obviously, that would be kind of crazy. But they would save a lot of stone on TCs. So maybe
Exactly.
that kind of defensive style, perhaps building crepos in your economy while you build that up could be an option as well. But yeah, Tato getting some good raids going at the back, continuing to stay feudal for now, it seems. While Doubt is, I believe, on the way up to the Castle Age. We can check his point of view as well to see that. But he's losing quite a few villagers out here. There you go. Castle Age upgrade in, and you can see those beautiful buildings just come to life as he ages up there. But more towers denying Doubt's gold on the left side. He's losing out villagers at the back as well. But he does have gold down on the low ground here. So now he's Castle Age. He's got to spend down those resources, get some more units in queue. As far as I can see, he is not queuing anything right now.
The fun thing
He
about
must be
towers
queuing
as
something.
well is that I don't think Doubt knows yet, but there have been balance changes. Of course, they will be there on release. Towers have been significantly weakened, so I think if he would actually run up with some villagers, he would actually be able to take them down rather easily.
Okay, so in what way have they been weakened exactly? Is it sort of like villagers do more damage to them, or do they do less damage in return? Or
actually, just the hit points.
Oh, okay.
We tried so many things to balance the
Right,
towers,
right.
and then in the end, we were like, "Hey, what if we just reduce the hit points?" And we're like, "Hey, that actually seems to work." So
yeah, for
there you
sure.
go.
Towers have been a massive sticking point for so long. Finding the right balance for that is a huge challenge. So I know you guys at Forgotten Empires have been taking a lot of balance feedback from expert players as well, and I imagine that's probably helped quite significantly.
Oh yes, it does help so much, and also for on release, we always make the new civilization sign a bit stronger, and that's on purpose, right? Like you have those new civilizations, you kind of want to try around, play around, try new tactics, but then you have to play against somebody who's been playing the hunts competitively for 20 years. So it needs to be a tiny bit stronger. But then afterwards you just make the adjustments as needed.
You can fine tune, right? Like obviously at first you need to find where that civilization excels and then work from there.
Exactly.
Yeah. But this is interesting. I mean, something that I'm noticing when we're switching between the POVs, Tato's playing a lot more sort of zoomed in. Doubt's certainly zooming more out. And I guess that's, player preference entirely. Gives you that opportunity to set it just how you like. But yeah, Tato's still feudal at the moment. Probably thinking about going up soon. I mean, he did 2 stable full scout rush, which is very aggressive. But now Doubt's in the Castle Age. He's got cavalry archers out. He's going to start to push this back and repel this a little bit. We talked about the Bulgarians and their bonuses. Obviously, just to reiterate that, militia line upgrades for free, town centers 50% less stone, and they can build the Krepost, which is a sort of like a weaker castle that can build their unique unit. Their unique techs, though, scout, cavalry line, and conics, which is their unique unit, they attack 25% faster. That's the stirrups upgrade. And actually, I think, oh, that's my screen. Okay, I was like, Tato's checking the tech tree. Can he hear us right now? Yeah, we can see the tech tree here. I'm just reading this off. I'm terrible at pronouncing it. Bagans?
I would say Bagains. I'm not
Bagains,
sure either.
whatever it is. Militia line plus 3 armor. That's pretty huge, actually.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, it's one of those things like let's see how it works out. Does it work out great? If we need to make balance changes, we still do it because that's one of the nice things. Like we're gonna release the game, and we're gonna start supporting it straight away. And if we need to make balance changes quite quickly, we will have the chance to do so.
That's awesome, and I mean it's much needed, right? I mean, you can only test with so many people, and things can just sort of come out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, yeah, this needs addressing. So it's great that you're able to do that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, like you don't know what's going to happen. I'm quite sure that if you look at how the game is played nowadays, on some studios would have never predicted it actually played like that.
Right, so I'm sure there's probably some questions here. If you've ever watched Tato or Doubt streaming, you've probably noticed that they don't normally play with the big trees. Now, obviously, in the beta, big trees just as the game comes.
Yes.
What's sort of like modding support looking like? Are we going to be able to see small tree mods? Are we going to be able to see all of that stuff?
I already have a small tree mod on my computer.
Fantastic.
So it will be there. If it's not going to be implemented like straight into the options screen, it will at least be available straight away as a mod option. So it will be there. Same for a no snow mod.
Okay, so that's going to be built in.
If it's not, it's going to be directly available through the mod center. So right now, if you go to the options screen, we have like, I think 4 pages of options of things that you can talk with. It's ridiculous. People love options. So
yeah,
hey,
options are great.
Options are great.
That's the first thing I do. I boot up a new game, I go through all the options,
yes.
then I play the game.
See what's there, exactly. So yeah, that's really what we try to focus on. A lot of options for people to tweak the game to their taste. And I think the one mod that's in there is the grid option.
Okay,
so you can just turn on the grid terrain. Because in the past it was always difficult, like, oh, I have this nice texture mod, and I can't combine it with my grids mod.
So the grid's something on another level that can just be put on any texture mod. So obviously we know this is coming out on Steam. Yes. Will it be using the Steam Workshop then in that case?
It actually won't, because it will be coming out on Steam and also on the Windows Store.
Okay.
So the Microsoft Store. So to make sure that mods are available for everybody, the mods will all go through HMVampires.com.
Okay, and there'll be plenty of modding support for those people that want to make their mods. What about existing mods for HD? Would they be, I mean, obviously texture mods will be a whole different thing entirely, I imagine, but would there be mods that are transferable, or is it something that they need to do from scratch?
We try to avoid that people have to remake mods from scratch as much as possible. So even the graphics, if you have graphics mods with the good old original game graphics, you can just convert them.
Okay.
And yeah, that works.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that, to be honest. That's really cool. And also, I mean, I'm trying to cover all the bases here because Doubt looks like he's like getting pretty far ahead.
It's looking pretty bad for Tato.
It's looking really good for Doubt. But regards to AI, there's a lot of questions about AI. Obviously, you know, we've got the multiplayer focus here at the event, but there's a lot of single players out there as well. They want to know about AI. Will there be better AI capabilities? You know, what's that going to be looking like?
So the AI, we try to focus it on 2 things. So one is just making a better AI. It's not like completely overpowered, super strong AI. It still needs to be fun, right? Especially for casual players. They want variation, a good game, like not too try hard. On the other hand, we did add an extreme difficulty level. So
one step above?
One step above.
Okay.
It is really hard, I have to say. I usually play on extreme, and I often get my ass handed to me. So
really? Yes. Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, you're a very good player, so that says a lot about the AI, right?
So that's one thing. We try to make the AI, of course, a lot better, but also we try to add a bit more interaction with the AI. So we, you know, in the original game, you had like, give me some gold, or do you have extra resource, or make extra villagers. I think in the original game, you had like, 7 commands? Okay. Like gold, please, wood, please, attack now.
Food, attack now.
Exactly.
You know, stop building a navy.
Exactly. And he would not always listen anyway, so there you go. And now we have, I think, 80 commands or something like that.
Okay, wow. Okay.
So yeah, that's
is that all through the taunt system?
Yes, that's all through the taunt system.
All right.
And you can just at the very start of the game, you can say like, oh, try to go for a fast castle.
Oh, wow. So you can give them like AI objectives, essentially. Wow, that's awesome. So then obviously you'd be able to change that mid-game, I assume.
You can, but of course, if you say, like, if I've been building for a night rush the whole time and then change your mind last second, of course.
Right. Okay, that's unreasonable, but yeah. Awesome, that sounds amazing. That's really cool. I mean, I know that a lot of people really enjoy, you know, to play against the AI, especially before going into multiplayer. A lot of people just want to, you know, get familiar with the game, and to have that sort of difficulty level where they can actually get pretty good at training against AI. I think it gives a lot of confidence to people then going online. We just saw the tower being destroyed there. You get those amazing building destruction animations. I mean, the graphical effects are absolutely incredible.
We're very happy with how the graphics turned out, and not just because they look a lot better, but also because they're so recognizable. We really try to make sure that whatever unit you see, if you played the game for 20 years, it's like, okay, I still completely recognize this unit.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely
recognize everything from scratch.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there'll be some small things where it's like, okay, just at first you might be, okay, just double check. But I mean, after a while, I mean, you've got to learn it anyway. I mean, that's something that everyone had to do for AoE 2 regardless.
Yes.
So, you know, that's really awesome. And obviously the buildings maintain their iconic shape. I mean, everyone knows an archery range from that shape. Everyone knows the TC from that shape.
Exactly, because this is a new civilization. This is Tatar new architecture set, but there is no doubt in mind. Like, okay, that's a market that we just saw there. Like everybody just recognizes it.
Absolutely,
like that.
So speaking of architecture sets in HD and AOC, we had sort of civilizations sharing architecture sets. Will we still see that? Will there be new architecture for all the civs?
No, we're still sharing architecture. It does help recognizability. For building, it's okay. But there was a lot of requests like, hey, can we have like different unit skins? Like, can I have a Mayan archer looking different from a Chinese archer, from a Frankish archer? Right. But at that point, it gets really, complicated.
Yeah, it
does get tricky. Like the one thing about RTS games is like a unit needs to be instantly recognizable. Yeah. So that's one of the things that we really want to keep there.
Awesome. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But I think when it comes to modding, would then that sort of stuff be possible through modding, perhaps?
It is possible, but on the other hand, like it does also increase the file size of the game quite a bit.
Right, yeah. I believe it's quite large download. Obviously, with the 4K textures, it adds quite a lot. But they do look absolutely stunning, so that's understandable. Doubt at the moment, though, looking really good. Considerable score lead, and those cavalry archers are just raiding around absolutely everywhere. Tato is still feudal. I'm not sure if he's ever going to go up this game. I'm not sure if he's actually upgrading right now. But before the GG does potentially get called in the next few minutes, let's talk a little bit about the Tartars. We'll go over their sub bonuses as well. Doubt playing as the Tartars here in the red. So the sheep for the Tartars contain 50% extra food. That's going to give you a good start.
It's good
every time.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that also apply to cows?
Yes.
Okay.
All sheep-like units.
Okay, livestock then, I suppose.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, obviously a cow has 150 food, so that would be even more of a boost.
Sorry,
a cow would have 150 food, and then it would get 50% on top of that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
that's
wow.
a good boost, yes.
All right, so Tartar's going to be good on some maps more than others. Units deal 25% additional damage when fighting from higher elevation. We talked about that.
Yes.
That's just across the board. That's not just cavalry.
That is for all units. I mean, it of course matters more for cavalry archers because they just benefit more from that hill advantage. They can pick their fights much easier. Yeah. And then also one that fits with it is the free Partian tactics.
Yeah, I see that. So obviously Cav Archer really fits that really nicely. Yeah. And then unique unit, the Keshik, the raiding cavalry, which generates the gold, which you mentioned. And then the unique tech, the silk armor, which gives the scout cavalry line and cavalry archers an extra 1 pierce armor, which I think is completely reasonable. Yes. And then Timurid Siegecraft, it's trebuchets +1 range.
Yes,
that's going to be good for Treb Wars.
Oh yes, it's very good. It's not as good as Warwolf, but it's really nice.
So I can't help but notice the step lancer here.
Yes.
What is that?
So that's a slight like a ranged cavalry. It says cavalry with 1 range at this point.
Okay.
And it's basically like just for the Kumans and the Tatars, they can use this new cavalry unit in their stables.
Okay, and I also noticed the camel has been renamed to the Camel Rider.
Yes, we had the wild Gaia camel in the game, and it was a bit confusing it's now the Camel Rider.
All right, we're just going to go through the tech tree here, just give guys at home a little bit more of an idea of what's going on. Yeah. You can see obviously all the new artwork in the tech tree as well, looking fantastic. Pretty poor monastery.
Let's
not talk about that.
Not the best. But all again, like everything we see here, it's balance changes that can eventually change the Civ quite a bit later on. So yeah.
Absolutely. Tato is still hanging in there. He is now age 3, can confirm, and I believe is that a castle? Oh, is that a Keshik?
Oh,
not a Keshik, sorry.
It was the Kraypost.
Yes.
We saw it there. It's quite cheap. I'm not sure about the actual price. I think it's 300 or 350 stone. So yeah, roughly half the private castle. In almost each respect, it's half of castle. Like
Okay.
half the HP, half the half the cost.
Yeah, right.
Half the abilities.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
because one of the biggest challenges, when you're castle age and a castle goes down, taking down a castle in the castle age, it's not so easy. You need a lot of rams, or you just avoid it altogether. I guess you could deal with the crep host in the castle age with a couple of rams if you needed to.
You could, but I mean, again, you can make the unique unit straight from the castle, and it's a unique unit that's really good against rams. I mean, it's cavalry.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah.
That also makes a lot of sense. Yeah, of
it
course.
does. It's good for defending.
Yeah.
In every sense of the word.
So Tauto now sort of taking advantage of the fact his TCs cost half the stone. 50 stone instead of 100, can easily slam them down, try and catch up a little bit in villages, because obviously Doubt's been in the Castle Age for a while now and has quite a few TCs and obviously a lot more villages at this point.
It's a nice synergy as well. Like, you have the cheaper castle, the Grey Post. You have the cheaper town center, so you kind of can save your stone like that and spend it on other things. That's kind of the synergy that we try to go to when we build the new civilizations. Yeah,
awesome. So I just want to ask as well about sort of like the online multiplayer. Obviously, there will be an inbuilt lobby system.
Yes.
Is there going to be anything like matchmaking or anything along those lines?
There will be matchmaking. So currently, I think if you click on the multiplayer button, the first tab that shows up, if not, it will be changed. Will be the matchmaking screen, and then you will be. They will try to match you to somebody who's close to you in terms of range. In terms of rating.
Skill level, yeah.
Yes.
Right, okay. That's awesome. I mean, obviously, that's something that I think it's good, because I know a lot of people who sort of want to play competitively. They don't want to have to browse lobbies. They can just sort of press matchmaking, and then they'll trick them into a game when they're ready. So that's great.
Especially because Age of Empires is a very daunting game. If you start multiplayer, there's so much settings to go on. Like, if you just want to open your own lobby, for a lot of players, it's like, what do I pick?
Yeah, there's a lot to do.
Exactly. So you just click play in matchmaking, and the game tries to give you good presets. It's actually something that we're also still working on, like making sure that whatever you play, you get good presets for the settings you pick.
Awesome.
Because we see a lot of casual players that are like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to play like an island map with King of the Hill on Ludicrous? And it's like, that's a game that takes 5 hours.
Yeah, right. Not everyone has 5 hours.
Yes, exactly.
So if there's any questions in the chat, do feel free to send them our way, and we'll address what we can. I've sort of gone through all my questions at the moment, but the game's still going on here. Tato sort of bouncing back a little bit, starting to build out in the middle of the map, continuing to try and raid. But that's his unique unit right there, actually, in that group of units that we just saw.
Yeah, I see a lot of people also in the chat asking, hey, what about performance? Because that's one of the big things. Like, it's an RTS game, so we want to make sure that it runs well. So I believe that both players have their frame rate counter going on at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
So both players are running at 60 FPS, so that's good to see.
Yeah, I believe that's also VSync is on, so the monitor will be 60 hertz, and
there
it's
you go.
capped at that.
So it can be higher, basically.
Yeah, I turned VSync off earlier, and it went up to like 100 and something. So
there you go.
Yeah, a lot of questions coming in. Any new standard maps? That's the first thing I'm seeing.
New standard maps, yes, there will be new standard maps that came with like the theme of the last Khan's new expansion. So yeah, a few new maps as well.
Yeah, you just reminded me entirely. Like, new campaigns, like there's so much to this game.
Yes.
Seriously, we can sit here and talk for hours. Talk me through the new campaign.
Okay, so we have 3 new campaigns. We have Kochan Khan, Ifaidlo, and Tamer Lane. Tamer Lane we all know because he's been in the game since forever, and he never had a campaign. So now he finally has a campaign. So yeah, 3 of the 4 new civs actually get a new campaign. On top of that, all the other campaigns have been, I'm not going to say remade, but they have been tweaked, touched
polished?
up. Yeah, polished. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's still the good old missions. Like, if you play Joan of Arc again, you immediately recognize, okay, this is good old Joan of Arc. There's no change there. But all the voice acting, for example, has been redone. For all the civilizations. All the forgotten campaigns, they finally have voice acting. So that's something that people really love.
Yeah, awesome. That's really cool. So plenty to look forward to then if you're a campaign player. Get your hands stuck into that. More questions from the chat. Let's have a look what we've got. I'm just trying to see what I can see here. Will there be a lobby? It's chat's going too fast, Sijin. This is a problem.
Too many questions.
Can you guys slow down a little bit? That'd be great. What is the shimmer over some of the farms and buildings? Great question. I think I could answer that even.
Okay, go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, the shimmer is when you're researching something. So if you are, for example, aging up to the next age, then your town center will sort of glow a little bit to indicate that. But is that visible to your opponent as well?
No, absolutely not. That would give way too much information. Yes.
So that is something you see as a player. So I guess if you see your TC glowing and your opponent's sort of barreling into your base, you're like, oh, might need to change the Imperial Age upgrade TC before it goes down. Yeah,
exactly. That's really what we try to focus on, like make the game a bit easier to read. So that's one of those things.
Yeah. How will spectator mode look like? We had spectator mode up a little bit earlier, but it got a little bit choppy on this PC for some reason. So we can show you spectator mode again at the end of the game. I'll just sort of load that back in and we can just go over that. Did you nerf quick walling?
I don't think we did, actually. Especially quick walling, we're quite fine with that. Quick gating, I talked about with a few pro players here, and there seems to be a bit, not a consensus yet.
Yeah, rotatable gates definitely change things considerably.
It does change things, yes, absolutely. But we will monitor. We will see what happens, what people think, if they want to change it, because we have solutions. It's just like, do we need to add them or not? So,
right.
But quick walling, I think, it's fine. It's a high skill.
Of course. I mean, it's not something that everyone can do, and if
exactly.
you can do it, then good for you. You deserve to be able to pull that off, in my opinion. I mean, the thing with quick walling that I think a lot of people don't realize is you have to have the foresight. It's not something you just do. You have to see it, and you have to react to it quickly enough, Yeah. So how is the map picked in matchmaking?
So there's a map pool. We can easily change those map pools if we see like, okay, people don't like certain map in the pool. But I think currently there are 10 maps in the pool.
Okay.
And we try to go for like standard maps, like nothing extremely exotic. Like you're not going to get Socotra in the map pool, for example. But there will be Arabia, there will be Valley, I believe. So there's some standard maps, I would say, and then randomly one of those.
Right. Okay. So kind of like you can you pick any of the maps, or is it just sort of like these set maps and you get thrown onto a random one?
I would have to check.
Okay.
I think currently it's random.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it means that players get that variety as well. It's difficult to know the right way to do this kind of thing because. In my opinion, for example, I think having a variety of maps is very good, but also perhaps people just want to play Arabia. So trying to cater to both audiences is maybe a little tough.
We want to make sure that people don't feel like, oh, Age of Empires is only Arabia, because it's not. So we try to give a bit of variation, but if you just want to play Arabia, just go to multiplayer, host a game of Arabia, and that's it. The lobby is still there. There is matchmaking, but the lobby is still there.
Yeah. Awesome. So pathing. Pathing is something that a lot of people, I just saw in the SOGOM, like pathing. Tell us about that.
Tell us about pathing. So pathfinding was, that's always the trickiest thing in any RTS games, right? So the one thing with pathfinding is we really try to keep the system of, like the inherent design of pathfinding is still there. So what that means is, for example, the best example I can always give is, let's say you have two pikemen standing in line, and you have a big fat elephant right behind it. In a lot of games, especially in StarCraft, for example, the big unit would push through the other two units, right? It will push them aside and make space. That is something that we absolutely did not want, because that completely changes the way the game is played.
Okay.
So a unit, once it's in place, it will still completely block whatever comes behind.
Okay.
So the kind of like balls of units that you have in more modern RTS games, we don't have that. We still rely a lot on formations, on movement, and we're not going for that kind of flow field feeling of pathfinding. That's not what we go for. However, what we definitely try to improve on is, for example, targeting. If you do the attack move, for example, you go... you just attack move or patrol. It's now much better in actually picking its targets. We also try to make sure that in a lot of cases try to pick the shortest path, like actually picking the best paths. In Age of Empires, you sometimes feel like, hey, is that really the best path? But we really try to focus on those things. So it's still the same system, but we try to improve the existing system.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, just to address the FPS thing, the game's running at 60 for the players, but it's captured at 30 due to the stream. So that would be why it looks a little bit choppy to the people on the stream. On our screen, it's running just at 60.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was like, what are they talking about? But yeah, it's just we're capturing their screens at 30 FPS, so that would be why. Obviously, on the streaming PC, it would be at 60 as well. But will DE use the same ELO system as the HD or Voobly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, you start at 1600, and then it's good old.
Okay.
Good old thing.
So classic, just grinding out the points.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's familiar. Let's put it like that.
Right.
It's familiar.
Of course, yeah. Awesome. Will a user be able to see how many games someone in a lobby has played? So sort of like user profiles, things like that.
On ageofempires.com, people will have player profiles with all the information of games they played. But there is like a lot of community effort as well, like oh, we want this information, or we're gathering this information. And probably not everything will be there at launch. But as we said earlier, like that, we're just going to keep on working on the game. So if we feel like we need to add more information to people's player profiles, we can just do it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And as far as sort of like ongoing support goes, once the game is released, and you can pick it up in November, I believe. It's what is the actual release date confirmed? It's
14/11.
Yes. Intentional.
Even if we tried, we couldn't do it that good. So 14th of November it will be out on both on Steam and the Microsoft Store.
Okay, and when it is available, obviously it will be, is it in its final state, or will there be, continuous development after the fact as well?
Oh yeah, that is definitely something that we all want to stretch, that Microsoft wants to stretch as well. Like, this is not something that's going to be released and then that's it.
Yeah,
that is not the case.
So ongoing updates, and is there any sort of big things that you might want to do that isn't in the game yet that may be coming later?
We will talk about those when we get there.
Okay,
yeah.
When we get there, no problem. I'm trying to poke and prod a little bit too far, I think. Will people be able to host their own servers over LAN?
I would have to check, like, how are we playing now? I mean, the option will
we're
be
playing
there.
with the dedicated server through the matchmaking at the moment, yes.
The goal is that people will also be able to host their own server and play LAN as such.
Okay, awesome. So, I mean, obviously, with dedicated servers, it's going to be a massive upgrade to multiplayer performance. Obviously, when it comes to having an 8-player game with peer-to-peer, there's a huge number of connections there, and everything has to stay in sync. With the servers, then, I assume everyone's connecting to one location, and then that's helping massively with game latency and things like that.
Yes, it changes the way the game runs a lot. Now you kind of have the problem where you play the game, you have one player who can't really keep up and everybody's punished. And with the server setup, all players still kind of feel it, but the slow player will feel it more.
Okay.
And the others will feel it a lot less. So that's a big improvement.
So sort of like the slow player doesn't drag everyone else down, but they sort of just, they feel it more themselves.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Questions about sort of where the servers are located. There's going to be servers in every region so that there's, optimal performance around the world.
I don't know the exact locations, but I know that there's at least one in every continent at the moment.
Okay.
We have Western Europe, we have North America, we have Australia. So I don't know the exact ones, but we have a lot. Yeah.
Right. That's great. Anyway, this game, raging on.
Yes.
It's been a long one. Doubt here, trying to raid all over the place with his unique units. I think I've seen some step riders from him. Lots of his unique units there as well coming out, raiding. And of course, he's earning gold while he does that as well, which is fantastic for him.
Yes.
Gold will start to run out eventually, so his Civ seems to be well suited for this sort of 1v1 situation. Tato is just sort of doing full Halb at the moment, I believe, and just sort of trying to chase these cavalry units down, but they're everywhere. They're all over him.
Yeah, That's something that Tatar is really, really good at. They can just flood the map and be all over the place at the same time. So he's really trying to use that bonus really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, we can see from Tato's point of view, he's just trying to chase down all these cavalry units in his base, and he's using villages all over the place. So many of those TCs built up, and just villagers not gathering. So it may be Doubt's game. I mean, obviously Tato still has quite a high population at the moment. He's at about 190 out of 200, so he's not exactly on his knees here.
No.
But the pressure is certainly on for him at the moment.
Yeah, especially if we saw at the beginning where he was so far behind.
Oh yeah,
he definitely made a good comeback there.
Yeah, I think the ability to do like quick boom with the Bulgarians, obviously the cheaper TCs, it's great just for fortifying, but also for catching up if you do fall behind in vills. If you've got the food for it, you can just bam 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 villages everywhere. People are saying about scaling up the minimap. You can make it larger, yes.
Yes.
You can see there's a difference between Tato and Doubt even on the UI scale. You can tweak that. You can make it pretty big, actually.
You can make it pretty big. So the UI is completely tweakable, or at least scalable. So you can go from, I think, 75% to 125% of size. So whatever resolution you run at, you should be able to have a good, readable UI.
Some more technical questions coming in. Will you be able to scan with buildings? Are you able to sort of, put the building in the fog of war and see if there's something below it?
That's still an ongoing conversation.
Okay.
So we will see what we do there. It's not that urgent. I mean, the game works perfectly fine like this. But if we feel like we want to change it, we can totally change it.
Yeah. Bless you, Tato. Just having a little sneeze there. There's so many questions in the chat. Lots and lots of tags coming in.
I see one question that keeps on returning. Do old RMS maps work in DE? Yes, they do. You just can copy them over and then they still run. And we also have new RMS capabilities, but I can't talk about those just yet.
Okay. Yeah. Well, actually, for those interested, you may have seen before we start the games on the main stage, we sometimes show a DE sort of preview of the map that's about to come. Well, we did that by copying the map files over.
Exactly.
Those are the ECL maps that we put straight into DE, and they just worked. So that was fantastic. Obviously, there's a lot of features there, and as you said, there's some more RMS features as well.
That's the thing as well. Like this is a game that has 20 years of history and 20 years of custom content of the community. You don't just want to throw that away. So
right.
We're trying to support as much as possible from old mods. Like even if you have scenarios, if you have a scenario from 1999, it will probably still work in DE.
That's insane. Yeah. Actually, while we're on the topic of scenarios, again, as I said before, there is just so much to this game. When it comes to custom scenarios, the scenario editor is incredible for a game that is so old. But are there any upgrades coming with DE to the scenario editor as well?
There's some upgrades there as well. We added a few more triggers as well. Of course, so many more eye candy objects, so you can make a town that's so much prettier. The terrain blending has improved significantly, but I won't go too much into detail, but definitely the scenario designers who are a bit more fanatic, they will see it, they will be like, oh, how could I ever make scenarios without this before?
Awesome. Yeah, I've made quite a lot of scenarios myself over the years, and having those new trigger capabilities is really nice. You can do so much creativity inside of the scenario editor. So, giving those tools to the community is great for allowing them to make new things and keep the game going in different ways.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Two more questions.
I mean, there's a lot. Can it support multi-display? That's quite a technical one.
I think it can. I haven't tried actually, but I'm quite sure it can. I mean, AG supported it, so I'm quite sure that it will be supported.
I mean, I'm sure if you plugged your driving steering wheel and your pedals in, you could probably hook it up and make it work. Right? Are there any buffs coming to any of the weaker civs? Like the Vietnamese, for example, in competitive AoE, they have a terrible win rate and terrible pick rate as well. Is there any sort of changes coming to the Vietnamese?
So I believe we have some balance changes that are coming in on release.
Whoa!
Oh, we had okay.
Yeah, I think there was a little lag there between the players.
Okay, so this is exactly what happens if you have like a lag spike. Instead of punishing all players at all times, at some point the game will just catch up real quick. Okay. And then everybody goes smoothly again.
Right. So I mean, I think in another scenario that could have gone out of sync.
Yeah, exactly.
But in this case, it actually just slows down and then you're back up.
It catches
Okay,
up again,
yeah.
and then you're all good.
Yeah.
So it's really weird the first time you see it.
Yeah, right.
But after some time, you're like, okay, this is actually better than.
Yeah.
than
I mean,
we're
we're actually, as I said, we're not playing this over LAN right now, so our connection may have just dipped slightly to the server, and then that's the result of that. But now we're back on track, so that's awesome.
Exactly.
But yeah, sorry, going back to the Vietnamese and other civs, have they sort of been addressed as well?
So yeah, we have some balance changes coming up, and we will just keep on doing balance changes as we
Sure.
go. So
Sure.
there we go.
Would there be a list of those available anywhere for people to see?
Everything will be on the release. We will have a balance change log ready, so people can look into it.
Fantastic. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
AI support for Forest, nothing. I can see T90 still in front of me.
So yeah, the AI capabilities are definitely expanded, but I don't know if our AI is fully capable of doing Forest nothing natively.
At least not on Meta.
Yeah.
How would games between Europe and Asia work? If once your server is in Europe, surely it would lag for the Asian player. How does that work? Is it sort of choosing the server with the lowest latency to both players, or
the host chooses the server.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's similar to I believe in StarCraft as well. Like you pick the server.
You pick the server. Yeah.
Exactly. You play on that server.
Yeah. And anyone not playing on that server that's on them.
I mean, yeah. It's if the goodest thing about server is that you can kind of pick the server, and then if you're all close to the server, it runs great. But you still can't, like, whatever technology you pick, you still have the distance between continents that you can't bridge.
Yeah,
like whatever multiplayer system you do.
Yeah. What is your personal favorite change? Like, what is your favorite thing? In DE? It could be a change or a new feature.
I think it's just the farm queue. Like it's
Okay.
I just build a mill and I click it on. I never ever want to re-see the farm ever again. That's just it.
Yeah,
that's just it.
I mean, it's pretty awful when you've been focused on the other side of the map for 20 minutes and you come back and everything's just idle.
Yeah.
So I mean, just to explain how that works for anyone maybe unfamiliar, in the mill there is a new button next to the reseed or the farm queue.
Yeah.
And you can toggle it on or off. So you can turn it on or off at any time. And when it's on, farms will automatically take the 60 wood from your bank and reseed.
Exactly. And I mean, it's an option. You can just turn it on. You can still do the manual queue from before. You can just not use any queue at all. So you can do three options.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this game is very much in the spirit of this tournament. It's an hour and 12 minutes in, and they're still going. Still going. Like, when will it end? Who knows? Maybe in 3 hours, like last night. But I'm sure I'm not too worried about today's schedule. I think we're going to be all good today because, it is a best of 9 for the grand finals. But I do believe we'll be well on schedule, even if this does run a little longer. But Tato actually really catching up again. He actually was under a lot of pressure from Doubt's raiding earlier on, but now it's him who seems to be pushing back and actually starting to take a bit more map control. Doubt seems to be sort of making a play through the middle, rather on the right-hand side, but Tato is sort of pushing out behind him as well on that right side there, coming into his farms look, and Doubt sort of trying to push in the middle, but maybe losing a little bit of steam, sort of pulling back towards his castle there. The Tartar's castle, I mean, and the buildings in general, these like blue globes looking really, really pretty.
Yeah, really happy with how the graphics turned out, and as we said before, like they're instantly recognizable. So yeah, new civilization, but you're immediately feeling at home. When playing it.
Yeah. So obviously we see two different architecture styles here, if I'm not mistaken. And the other two civs then, did they fall under the same categories or?
So we have two that follow like the blue dome style, and then two with a new Slavic style. So that's actually the updated Slavic style that we see here.
Yeah. And just for the chat, what are the new civs? The other two?
Oh, okay. So the other two civs, like we have the Lithuanians and the Bulgarians, which follow the Slavic style, and then we have the Kumans and the Tatars, which follow the new Central Asian style.
Cool, awesome. And more information about those soon. If you're in the beta, I'm sure will they be available to play in the beta?
I think we have like a rotation, so but yeah.
Eventually, yes.
Eventually you will get to play all of them. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Can we rotate the camera? I don't believe you can.
Rotate? No.
Yeah.
You can zoom in and zoom out,
Yes.
but rotation is not. It's still a 2D game. People often forget, but it's a two-dimensional game.
Yeah. Are there going to be any options to sort of hide score during game? I mean, obviously, score has always been sort of present in multiplayer. Is there any way to hide that?
Currently not. We thought about it, but I actually talked to some pro players, and there seems to be a mixed feeling about like, is it actually good for the game? Is it actually not good for the game? It's a trivial feature to add, to be honest, but for release I don't think it will be there.
Yeah, I think it's quite more of a controversial one. I mean, a lot of people are very familiar with that, and I mean, maybe you could argue there's even a little bit of skill in reading the score, but yeah, some would argue that, well, it's information that you shouldn't have, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's sort of a big one to discuss. But Tato making a pretty big push now. He's got a lot of siege rams there in the middle, and they look like they're heading straight towards Doubt's castles. Doubt actually trying to deal with some siege rams out on the right side as well, and yeah, just trying to keep on top of things, sending out a group of villagers into the corner of the map. I don't know if he's going to try and raid from there, but looking at his resources, his eco right now, it's not looking great. He's almost below 100 pop. He's got barely any food in the bank. I mean, I imagine he's got quite a few units in queue. You can actually see the difference here. Doubt actually doesn't have the unit queue turned on, whereas Tato does. So you can see all of Tato's units queued up at the top there, whereas on Doubt's screen, that is not visible. But yeah, Tato at 200 pop, looking quite comfortable, taking down those castles. It's spectacular animations and